Welcome to tutorial 10 in the Practical RF Design tutorial series. In this tutorial, we will be learning part 2 of the complete design guide of a reactively matched ISM band power amplifier. If you haven't watched the part 1 of this tutorial, please watch tutorial 9. In tutorial 9, we studied PA introduction and device selection. In tutorial 10, we will be learning DC analysis and load line theory, load pull simulation and impedance matching. In the final tutorial, tutorial 11, we will be learning circuit simulation, layout design and simulation, EM circuit core simulation, and results and analysis. The next step is DC analysis and load line theory. Load line theory. Load line theory states that the maximum power that a given transistor can deliver is determined by the power supply voltage and maximum current of the transistor. In other words, load line means maximum available power. The actual load will not be a pure resistance and always have some reactance. Voltage swing close to knee voltage will introduce distortion, which results in high harmonics. In order to draw the load line, we need two important parameters from the datasheet. The first one is maximum collector emitter voltage. In our case, for BFQ790, the voltage is 6.1 volt. And then we also need the maximum DC collector current, and for BFQ790 is 300 milliamps. Next is classes of operation. I have used the ADS schematic and data display server created by Matt Ozales for this simulation. You can get this template by clicking on his video titled How to Design an RF Power Amplifier Class A, Class AB and B in the Keysight Design Software YouTube channel. Let's open the schematic and simulate. Load line is drawn automatically here in this template. However, we need to understand how the load line is drawn. We need 2 points to plot the load line in the IC versus VCE curve. This template shows ID versus VD because it's created for FET. However, we can use it for BJT as well. The first point is marker 1. Marker 1 is placed on the maximum DC collector current on the y-axis and knee voltage on the x-axis. We have 300 milliamps as the maximum DC collector current from the datasheet. Knee voltage usually will be around 0.7 volt, so we need to set it to 0.7 volt. The second point is the maximum collector emitter voltage, which is at the end of the load line. As you can see, it's set to 6.1 volt. We have to vary the marker 2 to select a class of operation. This is a class A configuration. How do we know it's a class A? Is through the conduction angle. Conduction angle 360 degrees means it's class A. We can also monitor the RF ideal voltage and RF ideal current swing, which is unclipped here. This template also shows us other parameters such as maximum output power of 22.9 dBm, the small signal gain of 15.5 dB, the large signal gain of 15.5 dB, the efficiency of 36%, and DC current of 0.16 ampere. Let's look at class AB next. I just have to drag the marker M2 to class AB region. This is an example of class AB. How do we know it's a class AB? Is through the conduction angle. Conduction angle between 180 and 360 degrees means class AB. We can also monitor the ideal current swing, which is clipped. The theoretical payout max is 24.6 dBm. The small signal gain is 13.3 dB. The large signal gain is 10.1 dB. Efficiency is 49%, and then the DC current consumption is 0.13 amp. Let's look at the class B operation next. Just move this marker to get 180 degree conduction angle. This is class B configuration. How do we know it's a class B? Is through the conduction angle. Conduction angle 180 degree means class B. We can also monitor the ideal RF current swing, which is clipped by half. In summary, class AB operation is selected for this PA since it's a driver PA. Usually pre-driver will be class A. driver and final PA will be class AB. The next step of the PA design is load pull. The load pull is a measurement that varies the input and output impedance of a transistor to plot contours of maximum power and power added efficiency. Designers can select an impedance according to the power and PAE they want. The load pull system will fix source impedance and vary the load impedance. After that, the load impedance will be fixed and the source impedance will be varied. This process needs to be repeated at least 3 times to plot the power and PAE contours accurately. Load pull also can be simulated using Keysight ADS. This is the load pull measurement setup. This is an example of the load pull setup from Google. This is source tuner and this is the load tuner. The device will be mounted at the center, connected to load and source tuner. This is to give you an idea of actual load pull setup. In this tutorial, we will only do load pull simulation to extract the load and source impedances. However, to understand load pull simulation, load pull measurement needs to be understood first. That's why I briefly explained the load pull measurement here. The figure given in this slide shows the device impedance from the datasheet. For source impedance, we can select the impedance at 2.6 GHz because it's close enough to 2.5 GHz. The source impedance is 10 minus J20. We can see that only impedance at 900 MHz is given for the load impedance. However, we can use this impedance as an initial impedance and tune the impedance in the load pull simulation. Let's launch the load pull simulation. This is the load pull simulation setup. This is also a template simulation. To launch the template, please go to Design Guide, Load Pull, One-Tone Load Pull Simulation and click on Constant Available Source Power. Since I already have this template modified, I'm going to close the new one. I want to credit Anurag Bhargava for his load pull simulation videos as I learned load pull simulation from his videos. After replacing the transistor to BFQ790 device model from Infineon, we need to set the bias voltages correctly according to our need and the datasheet. In setting VBE and VCE, usually the datasheet will supersede load line simulation done in step 2. This is because load line simulation is just an estimation with many assumptions, whereas datasheet have measured data of the device. Due to this, designers are often comfortable biasing the device according to the datasheet recommendation rather than load line simulation. You can ask me why we need to do load line simulation in the PA design step then. As PA designers, we need to understand how the load line theory works as it's integral part of the PA design. We also need to set the input power PAVS_dBm, RF_fric, load impedance Z load center fun and source impedance Z source fun. We set the load and source impedance according to the datasheet. I would like to double click the load pull instruments to show you the internal settings. I have selected no to specify load center as, which means I have chosen to work with impedances instead of reflection coefficient. I selected sweep rectangular region as no means the impedance point will be secular and follow the settings of the as load radius and number of points will follow the num points. I have tried to increase the number of points but I ended up with an error, so it is recommended to stick to the default number of points. Let's simulate this and see what we get. This is the PA output power and PAE contour. As you guys can see, we have not obtained the optimum power and PAE contours here. How do we know if we have obtained the optimum power and PAE contours? If we obtained optimum contour, we would see a small circle in the middle of the power and PAE contours. This small circle indicates the peak power and peak PAE. The rest of the circles in the contour will be centered around this small circle. Otherwise, we must tune the impedances until we see a small circle at the center of both power and PAE contours. In our case, we have to tune the load impedance since the datasheet only has load impedance for 900 MHz. I have done the tuning and obtained the perfect load impedance, so I will just insert the numbers. The optimum load impedance for our case is 15 minus J25. Let's re-simulate the load pull simulation. As you guys can see now, we have obtained the optimum contour for both power and PAE. There are a lot of information given here. The boxes on the left shows the summary of important information needed. The first box shows impedance at maximum power. We can see PAE and gain at the maximum power as well here. The second box shows impedance at maximum PAE. We can also see output power and then gain here. The third box displays impedance and other parameters in the contour as we move the marker 1. Fortunately for this transistor, both peak power and peak PAE contour are overlapping each other. Due to this, it's easy to select an impedance because as you can see, the peak PAE and peak power load and source impedances are the same. This is our load and source impedances contour, and the power and PAE values of the contour is given here. This is a close-up view of PAE and output power contour, so you can clearly see that peak power and peak PAE overlapping each other. In conclusion, these are the impedance for the maximum power and maximum PAE which we selected. The step 4 in designing a PA is impedance matching. This picture shows the concept of impedance matching. The output and input impedance of a PA will be 50 ohm. There will be input match and output match between 50 ohm impedance and the transistor. Load pull measurement will give us complex conjugate impedance of the output and input impedance. These are the complex conjugate input and output impedance obtained from load pull. Impedance matching is done from PA impedance to 50 ohm. Let's go to our fourth step, which is impedance matching. There is nothing in this schematic because I'm just going to do impedance matching here. In order to launch the Smith chart utility, go to Tools and click on Smith chart. We can open the saved template. This is the impedance matching done for the same input impedance. However, let's do it all over again. The first step in the Smith chart is to set the frequency. Our frequency of interest is 2.45, which is the center frequency of our band. The next step is to set the Q circle. The calculated Q circle for our band of interest is 8. We have Z source and Z load. Z source is set to 50 ohm, and then I will lock the impedance so it won't move during the impedance matching. Z load will be set as the PA input impedance. The PA input impedance obtained from the load pull is 2.292 minus J 12.934. We can select the appropriate components from the component palette and do the impedance matching now. As simple as that, the input matching is done. We can get the value of the components from here. Let's move on to the output matching. In same way, frequency is set. The Q circle is 8 again. The Z source here is set to 50 ohm, and then the Z load will be set to the PA output impedance. The PA output impedance is 8.945 minus J 24.964. I would like to log this impedance as well. We have accomplished the impedance matching for the PA output as well. These are the component values. The impedance matching is accomplished for the load and source impedance obtained from the load pool simulation. With this, we have completed step 4 in the PA design process and came to the end of tutorial 10. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I will see you in my next video with continuation of this PA design tutorial. For inquiries, please email pragash@innovwave.co or visit www.innovwave.co.